banker, rich as he can be. When I am stronger, choose what I may do. Annie, I'll go around at night and light the lamps with you. Sailed across the ocean. Our fathers, they sailed west. Here we are.
Well, my name is Rose Johnston James. I live on this farm that belonged to my great-grandparents, George and Rachel Olney. They settled here in 1875. They were married in February of 1875, and then they moved here in March of 1875. So a month later, they moved here. They were from Chillicothe, Iowa, so I'm assuming that's where they got married, but that part I don't know for sure. And they had a cabin. First of all, they came by covered wagon, and then they built a log cabin, which was southeast of where I'm at now, where this house is. It had dirt floors, a dirt floor.
This used to be part of the Olney farm. Little Joe farms that now, but it's not. It's owned by somebody else. But it used to be Olney's. But now the property starts right at this fence. Kevin's got one row done.
They bought 80 acres down there. And that was where they had the log cabin that they lived in. Well, then later, they bought this 80 that this house and buildings are on. And before they were married, George enlisted, actually, with Company B, 36th Iowa Infantry on February 10th, 1864, in the Civil War. And he was only 15. It says here that 1 month later he became 16. Anyway, he told him he was 18. In those days, you didn't have to have birth certificates and all of that kind of thing. So that's what he told him, that he was 18. And he was captured not very long after he entered the war down at Mark's Mill in Arkansas, and he was a prisoner in Tyler, Texas. And he was there for 10 months, and he always had bad health, and he was always short within, what was it? They said he was 5 feet 3 inches tall, and they always thought it was because of the treatment that he got. No food. I've been told that they were fed corn, just like they were scooping it out to the hogs. So that's probably why he had health problems, I guess, the rest of his life. And he died at the age of 61 or 2. So he really didn't have it. But then that was kind of an average thing in those days for life expectancy.
And you said George Olney was your great-grandfather?
Right.
Yeah.
He was my great-grandfather. And his father was a doctor over in Chillicothe. The interesting thing that I thought about when they moved here was the fact that she had to have a new cook stove. When you bought a new cook stove, you got utensils to go with it, which would mean skillets, pots, pans, all that stuff. So she called it an outfit. An outfit of utensils always went with the stove. And of course, this was a wood-burning cook stove. It was not a modern thing like we have today. It was wood burning. Fact is, when I was little and we moved up here from Kansas City, that was what my mom cooked on, was a wood-burning cook stove. I don't know how they cook on the thing. I really don't. I
Yeah.
never could. It takes, you gotta know what you're doing when you cook on those things. Anyway,
Did they build this house?
no.
Where did this house?
This house was here. This part right here. These 2 rooms here and 2 rooms upstairs was here. And then they moved another house in and hooked it on to this one. That's the way they had the 4 bedrooms in upstairs, and the kitchen and the dining room, and this then was the living room, and that was the bedroom in there. And the fact is, that might have been they might have used that as a parlor, because lots of times they had an extra room that they only used when they had special guests.
Yeah. And that's the room.
Yeah, that would have been in there.
That's your bedroom now.
Yeah. Well, I sleep upstairs,
Oh, okay.
so,
Rachel lived in this house, right?
right.
And did she die in this house?
Yes, because, well, it says there that in later years she couldn't take care of herself, and they had her bed set up in this living room, and Aunt Ethel took care of her all the time until she died.
Wow.
That part of the house was on the 80 next, not on what we call the West 80, but the 80 next to it. And George, great-grandfather George, bought that 80 acres and moved that house over here that was there. And it was just, all of these homes in those days, and there's none of them left. The last one was up the road here. 2 rooms down, 2 rooms up. That was the old prairie home. And that's the way, and they were all that way. 2 rooms. It wasn't, back in the 1800s, that's the way they were. 2 rooms down, 2 rooms up. So anyway, that's the way this house was. Well, I didn't know this. I didn't read this very well. Shortly after getting a good crop off his new land, that would have been down there where they lived, George rented out his farm and went to Kansas and took a homestead. I did not know that. And the hot winds burned out his first crop there, and after making a trip to Wyoming with cattle, he returned to Iowa and began improving his farm, adding many acres to the original 80. They became one of the most successful farm families in the county, and I knew they were. And they've had 6 children: Bertha May, who was my grandmother, Carl Eugene, Leota Pearl, George Francis, and Harrison Morton. And then they had a little baby, Almira Etta, and she died in infancy. Because I remember my grandmother talking about her, that I was trying to think what was wrong with her. I think she might have had pneumonia maybe or something. That was a common thing. Harrison was the one that was the youngest in the family. And after the kids were gone, except for Harrison was still home. They moved to Mount Ayr, and that house is still there that they lived in. So when they moved up there, they kept this farm, and Pearl and her husband and family moved on here for a while and lived here. Well, then, the way I understand it, this may be just folklore, I don't know, but Harrison then got married, and she lived in Mount Ayr too. That's how come they got acquainted. So anyway, after they were married, they pushed poor Aunt Pearl off this place, she and her family, and they bought a place somewhere off over in the other part of the county. And Harrison moved down here. He and Ethel. So, and they lived here then. They celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary here in this house.
So Harrison would have been your...
Great uncle.
Harrison would have been your great uncle.
He was a brother to my grandmother.
Yeah.
When did the Johnstons settle here?
In the
In
50s, 60s, 1850s, 1860s. Pretty close to when the Olneys got here.
yeah.
Pretty close to when anybody got to Ring. I mean, they were pioneers.
My dad, well, his dad and mother, well, you know, he knows more about the Johnstons than I do, because he's done a lot of research on that.
So, this daughter, that's Aunt Rose's grandma, Bertha.
Right.
She married Andrew Jackson Johnston. And that's how the Johnstons came into the picture on this place.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jack would have grown up on that farm, the Johnston farm,
Right.
to the east, where the son John and Andrew Jackson, and I don't know how many more were there.
Oh, there was 13 of those kids, and most of them are buried up at Rose Hill.
Yeah. So this is it. This was the Johnston farm, and the house used to sit right there up on the level. And that's the house that supposedly John Wesley Johnston built a log cabin there. I think that's well established. But then the rumor was that the house that was there was built around the log cabin, so had like 3-foot thick walls. But before they burned it and tore it down, we got in there and broke holes in the walls and didn't find anything. Yeah, this was the Johnston. This was where John Wesley came. Aunt Rose thinks it might have been the 1840s. Built a log cabin. And so that would have been, John Wesley would have been your great grandpa. And it was one of his sons who married an Olney, and that's how the connection with the Olney place happened.
So how did you get here?
Well, we lived in California, and Bus had a lot of heart trouble. He wasn't very well at that time.
Your husband, Bus.
That's my husband, yeah.
This is a crossbred corn here. It's eating corn, you know, like sweet corn, some people call it. And it comes with white grains besides yellow ones. They're real good.
You all stand there a minute. I'm going to see if Judy and Art will come out here and take a picture of the four of us. How old are you today, Buzz?
80. There's all my teeth, every day.
Let's see them all. Where's all your teeth at?
No.
Come on, do it again. Oh my Lord. That was pretty good.
I was going on over.
Did you see that?
You could have told that old boy was 80 years old.
And so we decided to move to Iowa, and Neil and your grandpa, Alan, had bought this 80 off of Harrison, and so then we bought it off of them. That was in '67, Thanksgiving.
You lived in this house since '67? Wow. It's a long time.
60-some years.
Yeah.
When we moved here, we had water in the kitchen and hot water, both. We had an outhouse. We had to go outside. No bathroom. So that summer, we tore off the old porch. There was a regular porch there then. Tore off that, built what's there, and put in the bathroom. And I always said, and the bathroom was still being put in late fall before Christmas, anyway, I always said the best Christmas present I ever had was when they hooked up that toilet on Christmas Eve, mind you. The plumber came down and hooked it up. I couldn't believe it.
That's funny. That's funny.
That was the best Christmas present I ever had. 69, maybe 68, 69, along in there somewhere. Not too long after we moved here. We had 8 or 9 cows to begin with. And then we kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Which is nothing now. I mean, we thought we had a lot of dairy cows. It was a joke now, because now if you don't have 150 or 200 head, why, milking, you don't have anything. And that's a small one compared to what the big ones are.
Chino, California.
Yeah.
So how many did you end up with?
Huh?
How many did you
We
have?
had about 40. Yeah, we milked, how long?
20 years,
At least.
right?
Yeah.
'Cause 88.
And then, well, we milked about a year after that.
Oh, yeah.
Are you boys captains? Huh?
There's a builder right in here. Builder out the dirt, any dirt that's in it. That's really not milk, it's water.
Stand back. Get back out of my way so I can get out of the way if I need to.
That was Neil's job, was to milk those cows, because I decided to go to work over at Clearfield,
Wow. So you.
and so he got rid of them pretty fast. There is a butterfat production award in there, but that came from the Dairy Association.
Mm.
And the awards we got from the milk company, well, it was for, I don't know what you'd call it. Let me go look. It tells.
Yeah, because I thought I remember seeing something up there.
Quality award.
Quality award. So you guys were awarded a quality award.
Yeah, good quality.
Yeah.
That's
Numerous years.
Huh?
Right? Several years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we milked for a long time.
And Harrison had milk cows too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So it was a dairy.
Yeah,
was it a dairy from the beginning, like when the barn was built?
Well, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. Because Neil said that when that barn was built, it had those grain bins or those feed bins all the way across, those grain bins.
Mhm.
You know, like we've...
Yep. Where the stanchions are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they were all... And they tore out the bins and put in those stanchions. But they always milked some cows because they had milk. I mean, you know, maybe just one or two.
Yeah.
So,
Might not have sold any, but always had a cow.
Right.
Yeah.
But now Harrison did. They separated milk and sold the cream, and yeah. I'll never forget one day Harrison came over and I was home. Must have been home by myself when we lived over here. And Harrison came over there one day, and I don't know, he was wanting Dad or Neil or somebody, and wanted to know where they were. And I said, well, they went to town. They were going to try and buy a tractor. And they were shopping for a tractor at that time. Neil had just got home from the Army, and so he was wanting a tractor. And Uncle Harrison said, well, what in the world does he want a tractor for?
So he never owned one.
Well, yeah, he owned that bee.
Oh,
that was his tractor.
That's right, yeah. You inherited that from him, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you buy it off him? Or?
Dad did.
Yeah. So he did break down and buy a tractor.
Yeah,
Harrison did.
He did.
Yeah. So how did Neil know so much about what was going on here when he was in California or Arkansas or wherever he was? Like, how does he know so much about what went on here when he wasn't even here?
Just by listening to Harrison. Yeah. And Grandma and whatever.
Yeah.
Just from what they told him.
Because once Neil came here when he was in high school, he never left. Other than...
Well, I shouldn't say that. We shouldn't. Because he was here maybe in his freshman year. And then he went home. Because when we lived in Riverton, Kansas, which was right after we moved from Kansas City to Riverton, because Dad had that job working in a defense plant, is what they called it. He was a welder in that plant, and it was close by. And he went to high school there at Riverton.
Neil did. That's where that's when he broke
That's
his
where
leg.
he broke his foot
Yeah.
playing football.
Hmm.
And then we moved back up here, and he finished high school at Mount Air.
Yeah. So Neil became the farmer that he was, and he just collected all that information.
Yeah, he did. Had it in his head.
Wow. Just from working alongside Harrison, or just listening, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
What are you doing?
Preparing for a winning roast, I guess.
Who's winning the ball game?
Huh?
Who's winning the ball game?
This afternoon, Kansas City got beat.
Kansas City got beat, huh?
How you doing? Good. How you been? Very good. Noah there.
Yeah, what's the matter with those Royals against the Yankees?
I don't know.
Last night, 2-1.
Yeah, 4-0 this afternoon.
The kids grew up here, every one of them. Of course, the saddened part was when we lost the older boys. Dennis died of leukemia, and Daryl was killed on a motorcycle wreck. So that was a tragedy. But so we've had our trials right along with everybody else.
Oh, my son, what is good? Can you hear with your ears alive?
Kevin and Susie. Susie went through college down at Tarkio, Missouri. She and her husband, Joe, they bought the farm next to us, south of here, which belonged to Neil. She bought it from Neil. She's got it in what they call CRP, which is a government program that pays rent if you don't farm it, which seems kind of ridiculous, but then we do the same thing, so. And Kevin, he went through 1 year at Maryville at the university, and then he started working for one of the farmers for a little while, and then he started helping out here more, and he just kind of took over, really. So Kevin has the 80 west of us. That's his 80 acres. He bought that off of Neil. And then he owns 20 acres that we took off of the 80 east of us, the one we called John Henry 80. So he owns 20 acres of that where the hog barn is.
Here's the control panel. Controls fans, feed lines, records water, controls the curtains, controls the inlets for air. Temperatures. This says it's 81 outside right now, and it's 77 in the barn.
Does he want to sit in front of the camera for a little bit or not?
Are you
What
kidding?
do you think? No way. Is that thing on, really? Sort of. That slide's all right. Huh. Must be the spline. It's,
I think it's just.
yeah. Wow. What is this? Oh, you're up against this right there.
Yep.
Yeah, you want to cut that out? There you go. There it is.
This is a century farm right now, which means it's been in the family for 100 years. And in about, what was it, 3 more years? Yeah. 25. Yeah, 3 more years. It'll be a heritage farm, 150 years in the family. There's farms around the country here in Iowa that have been in the family longer, but not very many. So that's about all I can think of that you need to know, that I know.